Hey, what's going on, everybody? Brent Hyden here, coming at you on this Monday morning, talking tonight's 9-game slate around the association. One quick reminder before we dig in, please make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. You will get notified whenever I post a new video, and also those thumbs ups go a long way to my videos finding their way to other people. If you did happen to stumble across this video and you're not already following me on Twitter, my Twitter handle at BrentHyde1 is in the description down below. Make sure you hit that follow button and send me a DM. Find out how you can get access to my projections and content, all for a very, very affordable price. Without further ado, I'm going to do a quick rundown of the slates. I already recorded this twice, actually. Both times got corrupted. I don't know what's going on. Hopefully that doesn't happen here, but going to make this a really quick rundown. Orlando, Washington. 6-point favorites, 219.5 over under. There's a lot of value already on the slate, especially at point guard, but one guy that I don't think will be very popular and I do have interest in is DJ Augustin. Washington ranks 30th in defensive efficiency to point guards on the season. He's been really consistent, averages right around 5 to 6 fantasy points per 36 minutes without an increase of 5 to 6 fantasy points per 36 minutes without Jonathan Isaac on the floor. Just, again, really consistent, over 30 fantasy points in 2 of his last 5 games. Really good spot for him. I like him in cash, always goes overlooked. Someone to definitely consider here. Looking at Evan Fournier, cash option for sure, tournament option for sure against Washington, who really struggles against spot-up shooters, allowing 1.09 points per possession to spot-up shooters. 20% of his possessions are spot-ups on the season. He's hoisted at least 15 shots in 6 of the last 10 games. Just a really good spot for Fournier, and going to see an even larger usage boost if Aaron Gordon is unable to go. So I like him a decent amount. I do like Aaron Gordon if he's able to suit up. Obviously sees a little bit of boost in production with Isaac off the floor. Washington ranks 29th in defensive efficiency against point guard or power forwards on the season. 7,800 on Draftkings, very, very good price there. 7,600 on Fanduel, very good price there. More of a tournament option just because of that ankle injury, but someone that I like. If he misses, go back to Jarrell Martin, who we saw put up a really solid game last night. Gonna play 20 plus minutes in the spot. Faster paced game against a really, really bad defense. Really good spot here for Jarrell Martin, assuming Aaron Gordon is out. And then Vucevic and Mo Bamba, 2 guys to look at in tournaments. I think Vucevic on DraftKings is a very, very fair price for tournaments. He's also pretty fairly priced over here at 8,500 on FanDuel, but it's going to be hard for me to get away from Karl Anthony Towns in cash in the spots. So definitely tournaments for Vucevic. And then Bamba on DraftKings, 4,100, a decent value tournament option. Not really looking there on FanDuel. Terrence Ross coming off a season high 22 points off the bench on Sunday. Just another very good option here. So just going to play a decent amount of minutes. Going to get you 20 plus fantasy points most nights. Going to play, if he gets you to that, 30-minute mark, you're really, really happy with that. In cash, I love him on both sites, 5,100 and 4,600. Really, really like him on FanDuel at that price. And then Jonathan Simmons, just a name to keep in mind should Aaron Gordon miss this game. Just going to, see an increase in minutes. Does a lot of ball handling for that second unit. So Jonathan Simmons, a name to keep an eye on. Looking at the Washington side of things, John Wall on DraftKings, way too cheap at 8,600. Orlando ranks 21st in defensive efficiency to point guards. He's one of the top options at point guard on the slate. At least 7 assists in 7 of the last 10 games, over 40 fantasy points in 6 of the last 10. Really, really good matchup for him, coming off two really solid games. Just going to play a ton of minutes. 38, 40 minutes most nights. Just I can't get away from that price on DraftKings. Over on FanDuel, tend to a little bit pricier. Not really that interested there, but still someone to look at. Bradley Beal, 8,400 again. 7,100 on DraftKings. Too cheap. He has monster upside, cash tournaments. Feel free to build around him if you so choose. Porter and GPPs, it's Otto Porter. He sucks. But at 5K, we know he has tournament winning upside at that price. So I'm fine there. I really like Markieff Morris. Going to be really, really overlooked. 4,400 on DraftKings. 4,600 on Fanduel. He's coming off some rough games, but again, I've talked about it a few times. Getting a few more minutes each night with the second unit, just a really, really good spot for him. Orlando struggles against power forwards. They struggle to rebound. It's a good spot. I love Markieff Morris pretty much all formats. Jeff Green, if you think this game goes small, which it very well could, it did last time these teams played. Jeff Green at his price, pretty appealing. Has been over 20 fantasy points in 3 of the last 4. I like him in tournaments. And then Dwight Howard, who let us down after a hot start to that Orlando game last time out, revenge game. So yeah, 6,100. I like that price in tournaments. On Draftkings, he's a fade for me on FanDuel, where he is like 7,400. Yeah, that's a fade. Moving on, we have Philly at Miami. Wade is out for this game. Miami 1-point favorites, 223 over under. Jimmy Butler not expected to suit up until Wednesday, and Mike Muscala and Wilson Chandler both going to play. Chandler limited to about 20 minutes, so that has him off of my radar. I don't have a ton of interest in this game. I will say on FanDuel at point guard, where Ben Simmons is 9,900, that is pretty intriguing. I do kind of like him just because the way point guard shakes out on the slate. 9K on DraftKings, I'm still fine with it. I think more so in tournaments than cash. I would rather have John Wall for, a couple hundred less. There's a couple other guys that we're going to talk about I think I like a little bit more. But yeah, I'm fine with that price tag for Ben Simmons. Triple-double upside for sure. Joel Embiid, tournaments at 10-1 is fine on DraftKings. 10-7, it's fine on FanDuel. I just don't have a ton of interest in this game, unfortunately. Aaron Gordon listed questionable. Okay. I will say Mike Muscala, very, very interesting in the spots at 3,500. Did not play last game. I expect him to play mid-20s, maybe closer to 30 minutes in the spots. At 3,500, I have a hard time not liking that price tag. Over on FanDuel, I don't know that you want to do that, just because I think center is a spot where you don't want to punt most nights anyways. But if you really, really, really want to punt at center, I think you can with Mike Muscala. 30. I think the better option over here on FanDuel at 3,800 is Kelly Olynyk. Just way too cheap. This guy has 20 plus fantasy point upside. Elfrid Payton closer to doubtful. Okay. 20 plus fantasy point upside. It's just Kelly Olynyk. It's really hard to trust him, but at 3,800 on FanDuel, where you can drop his score if he sucks, I do like him a decent amount. And then JJ Redick in cash, way too cheap for a guy that's going to play right around 30 minutes. He's just going to shoot a lot. Unfortunately, that doesn't really appeal to me, but yeah. And then TJ McConnell, if you think he's going to get closer to 30 minutes, which I have him right around low 20s. This is a spot where Miami does struggle to defend the pick and roll. TJ should get a decent amount of run, again, with this team being shorthanded, so I'm fine with him in tournaments as value, but there's a couple other guys that we're going to talk about that I think are better. And then Landry Shamet, just a tournament option, just going to shoot a lot. That's about all that. Without Wade, minutes are going to open up for some of the backcourt guys. One of those guys being Rodney McGruder. Going to play a lot of minutes, 5K on FanDuel. I'm fine with it. Spot-up shooter against a Philly team that struggles against spot-up shooters. It's a good spot for him. I don't really have any interest in him on DraftKings at 57, but at 5K on FanDuel, I like it. Dragic is just way too cheap across the industry, coming off a really bad game where he went 0 for 7 from the floor in 21 minutes. Again, not the greatest of matchups, but 5,800, just way too cheap, I think, for Goran Dragic. Definitely someone to consider in tournaments. I think he's going to be super popular on FanDuel, so I'm fine if you want to roll him in cash there. Whiteside in tournaments is fine. Obviously, going up against Joel Embiid, not the greatest of spots for him, especially given how much space Joel Embiid takes up in opponents' heads most nights. But against a team with Ben Simmons, who drives to the rim a lot, could see a few extra block opportunities for Hassan Whiteside. So I like him in tournaments. Yeah, other than that, again, Kelly Olynyk, I think on FanDuel is one of the better punt options on the slate. Moving on, New Orleans at Toronto with Elfrid Payton now closer to doubtful. Nikola Mirotic questionable for this game. Jrue Holiday continues to be one of the most consistent options across the board. every single night. Going to get you like 40 plus fantasy points almost every single night. Going to play like 36, 37 minutes almost every single night. I'm fine with him in cash, fine with him in tournaments. Not the greatest of matchups, but a faster paced game. Again, just going to be like a guy that you feel pretty comfortable is going to be able to get you 40 fantasy points. So I like Drew Holiday in this spot. If Mirotic plays, he's fine in tournaments. 7,700, I do like that price a little bit more than where it's been. 7,700 on Fanduel. Fine with him in tournaments. If he sits, I think Julius Randle is a guy that you're just kind of trying to lock in your lineups. 7,300 on Fanduel, a little tough, especially at center. But over here on Draftkings at 6,600, we saw him get the run. Gonna have lots of rebounding and shot opportunities in a faster paced game. I really like Julius Randle in all formats if Mirotic is not able to suit up. Anthony Davis, it's Anthony Davis. I don't really need to say anything. If you want to play him, play him. I think Kevin Durant is going to be a better option. I think Kawhi Leonard is going to be a better option, but it's freaking Anthony Davis. So if you really want to play Anthony Davis, play Anthony Davis. I liked Elfrid Payton, but yeah, now that he's closer to doubtful, that really sucks. Pace of this game going to be a little bit of a boost for the Raptors. That makes Kawhi Leonard very, very appealing, especially at his $8,700 price tag. This guy has like a 55, 60 fantasy point ceiling at $8,700 in a fast-paced game. Comes in with a near 30% usage rate on the season. Should just absolutely be able to smash his salary. Even at $9,400, Kawhi Leonard going to be a guy that I'm going to be trying to build around. I love him in the spot. New Orleans really bad in isolation, really bad defending in transition, really bad defending spot-up shooters. That accounts for over 50% of Leonard's offensive possessions this season. So Leonard in a absolute smash spot. I love him in all formats. Kyle Lowry, I like in tournaments. It's going to be really hard for me to go Kyle Lowry over John Wall on DraftKings, where there's only a couple $100 difference. But over on FanDuel, I really like Kyle Lowry in cash and tournaments. Danny Green, always going to be a tournament option for me. 4,800 on FanDuel, 4,300 on DraftKings. I really like that price in tournaments. And then Fred VanVleet, a good value option here, going to get you low to mid 20s. Can get you 20 plus fantasy points. So there's a couple other value point guards that we're going to talk about that I like better. But yeah, I'm fine with Fred VanVleet. I think on FanDuel, OG Anunoby is a very, very good punt option here. So, like, you could do an OG Anunoby and Kelly Olynyk lineup where you're punting with those two guys, and you have a lot of salary left over for some studs. OG Anunoby, over 20 fantasy points in 3 straight games. He's averaging 14.7 points on 19 to 32 shooting over those games. Obviously, we know his length helps on defense for him, so I kind of like him. Oh, come on. Jeff Teague, a game-time decision, so we'll get to that one in a little bit. I think Jonas Valanciunas gets a start here. I like him in tournaments on DraftKings at 5,300, and I really like Serge Ibaka pretty much in all formats. But yeah, that does that game. Again, moving quickly, because I've already recorded this twice. But Dallas at Chicago. Chicago 2-point favorites in this one, 220.5 over under. Zach LaVine continues 33% usage rate on the season, averaging 27.2 points, 5.2 rebounds, 3.9 assists, shooting 35% from 3. Dallas is allowing opponents to shoot 41% from 3 on the season. Zach LaVine should have absolutely no issues putting up a monster outing. Again, someone that I really like in cash, I really like in tournaments. It's going to be hard for me to get him over a couple of the other options that we're going to talk about, but I have absolutely no issue going back to Zach LaVine. He's another guy you feel pretty comfortable is going to get you 40 plus fantasy points just about every single night. Ryan Arcidiacono, I was all over him on Saturday. I'm not as high on him in this spot. 3,700. Really low usage, but I'm still fine with him. I think as a cash punt option here. Again, Dallas allowing 1.26 points per possession on spot ups. 50% of Archie's possessions are spot ups on the season. And then again, I mentioned Dallas really, really struggling to defend the 3-point line. 63% of Arcidiacono's shots this season are 3-pointers. So Arcidiacono in a very good spot here to produce I think I'm going to go with like JJ Barea and a couple of these other value point guards over him, but I have no issue going back to Arcidiacono in this spot. Parker's fine in tournaments. I just hate Jabari Parker. And I love Wendell Carter Jr. in cash in tournaments, at least over here on DraftKings. Still just really, really consistent. Shooting really well over the past couple of games. Rebounding upside is there for sure, even in a little bit of a tougher matchup. But again, it's really tough. This dude's just really, really consistently getting you, 30 plus fantasy points most nights. So I like Carter Jr. on DraftKings and cash and tournaments on Fanduel, where he is 8K and power forward only. Yeah, that's going to be a pass for me there. Justin Holiday is just a guy. I think he's way too expensive. Where did I see him? Like 5K. I'm fine with Justin Holiday at 5K on DraftKings. Where was he super expensive? 6K. Yeah, that I don't understand that price at all. So FanDuel hard pass, DraftKings. It's fine. Dallas side of things, I already mentioned JJ Barea. I expect him to get mid-20s in minutes with Wesley Matthews being out. Excellent value. Chicago defense, absolutely terrible. JJ Barea just really, really freaking consistent whenever he's on the floor. Really high per minute guy. Whenever he's getting the run, I love JJ Barea in all formats. Going to be a guy that is a core option for me here. I really like DeAndre Jordan. Chicago giving up 49.3 rebounds per game. 13.5 second chance points per game. Really good spot for DeAndre Jordan at his current price tag of 7K on DraftKings and 7,600 on FanDuel. If you can't get up to Cat on FanDuel, 7,600 for DeAndre Jordan, really, really good price. And 7K where you can do like a Karl-Anthony Towns and DeAndre Jordan 2-center lineup on DraftKings. I really, really like that. Dennis Smith Jr., super, super low floor, but monster upside, especially at his price. Best suited for tournaments for me here. Harrison Barnes, definite cash game option. Going to be really chalky, and I'm fine with that. 5K over on DraftKings, 5,500 over on FanDuel. Just going to play a lot of minutes. Going to take a decent amount of shots. Excellent matchup. It's really a lot to like with Harrison Barnes. Pretty much all formats. And then Luka Doncic, looking really, really good. 7,700 on DraftKings or on FanDuel, 7,600. Finally has forward eligibility over on DraftKings. Should just be able to smash in the spot. I like him in all formats. It's going to be hard for me to get him over a couple of the other guys like that we're going to talk about in that same price range, but he's just not going to be very popular. Assist numbers still starting to climb. I really, really like Luka Doncic in tournaments, even cash, if you can fit him in your lineup. So good spot for Luka. I think that pretty much does it from that game. Moving on, Utah, Memphis. Whoa. This game is really simple. Utah 2-point favorites, 205.5 over under. Looking at Utah, they're just tournaments where they fit outside of like Jay Crowder, who is 5,200 and really, really cheap, and Derek Favors, who is 4,300. These guys have been really consistently scoring in the mid to upper 20s in fantasy points, and they do have a little bit of upside. So at their current price tags, Derek Favors at 5,100. I'm fine with that in all formats. Derek Favors at 4,300. That's a really good price, even though the matchup is not great for him. Just a really good price on those two. So I like both of those guys in cash or tournaments on DraftKings and FanDuel. Donovan Mitchell in tournaments on DraftKings, 7,700. Again, there's going to be a few other guys that I really like, Devin Booker being one of them, and we'll get to that in a second. But yeah, it's a really, really good price for a guy that's going to be playing a lot of minutes and the usage that he has. So Donovan Mitchell in tournaments, I'm fine with that. Yeah, Gobert in tournaments if you so choose, but there's just a lot of really, really good options at center tonight. One of those guys being in the other side of this game, that's Marc Gasol. Marc Gasol, 7,100 over on DraftKings, 8,500 on FanDuel. DraftKings, he's cash game viable if you really, really want to. He's absolutely smashed in this spot twice already this season, averaging 48 fantasy points per game. I'm not a huge believer in home road splits, but this season Gasol has played really poorly on the road and been really good at home. 17.8 points on 48% shooting at home, 12.2 points per game on 33% shooting on the road. I don't know if there's any merit in that at all. It's just something worth noting. Coming off second straight double-double with 18 points, 12 rebounds against the Sixers. Again, he's produced in this matchup twice already this season. Absolutely no reason to believe he won't do it again. Gobert is good on defense, but Utah's rim protection, interior defensive numbers just have not been good. So I like Marc Gasol a decent amount. And then Mike Conley, this is the kind of matchup where we like point guards against this Utah team. Guys that can get to the rim a little bit easier. Guys that can drive. Mike Conley, 26% of his shots come at the rim. 38% of the rest of his shots come in the mid-range. And those two areas where Utah struggled to defend this season. And we've seen Mike Conley, again, really solid outings and against this defense. 44.5 fantasy points averaging in two meetings this season. I like Mike Conley in tournaments. I like him in cash on DraftKings. Definitely more of a tournament option on Fanduel. And then Shelvin Mack, 4,200 revenge game for Shelvin Mack, 3,900 on DraftKings. Just really cheap for a guy that's been markedly consistent, again, getting you in the 20-plus fantasy points most nights. They're playing small a lot. They're using Shelvin Mack alongside Conley a decent amount. It's just a good spot for him. Again, this guy's going to get you 20-plus most nights. I'm completely fine at 3,900 with Shelvin Mack in all formats. Kyle Anderson is Kyle Anderson, but he scored over 20 fantasy points in 3 straight. So that's at least worth, I guess, mentioning. Brooklyn, Minnesota. As I mentioned, Jeff Teague is now a game-time decision. Andrew Wiggins went through shoot-around is a game-time decision. Dario Saric and Robert Covington not expected to suit up for this one, and Karis LeVert is questionable. Without Butler on the floor this season, without Butler and Teague on the floor this season, Karl-Anthony Towns 1.57 fantasy points per minute with a 33% usage rate. Yeah, you're playing Karl-Anthony Towns in all formats. I know he's got a bad reputation as being soft. I know I've called him soft. I know I've been super uncomfortable with locking him in most nights, but now that Jimmy Butler is out of town, Karl-Anthony Towns, it's his show. It's going to be a monster. At 8,900 on DraftKings, this dude's got like 60-plus fantasy point upside now that Butler's out of town, and especially in this matchup. Even at 10-3, like, I'll take that all day long. It's the Nets. It's the freaking Brooklyn Nets. Like, one of the worst defensive teams against centers this season. Yeah. Towns, monster upside. Just lock him in and move on. Derrick Rose is someone that I have a lot of interest in as a core option if Jeff Teague is not able to go. He owns a 38.3% usage rate with 1.5 fantasy points per minute without Butler and Teague on the floor. So if Teague is not able to go, which we unfortunately may not know before lock, but Rose, someone to consider. Taj, excellent option here, 1.06 fantasy points per minute with those guys off the floor. Again, just going to play a lot of minutes in a very, very good matchup. 5,400, really, really good cash game option. 5,300, again, really, really good cash game option. And then Wiggins, if he's able to go, 26% usage rate, 0.91 fantasy points per minute without Butler and Teague. Tournaments only. And then Okogie, a solid value if Wiggins is not able to go, or if you just want to punt shooting guard across the industry. On the Brooklyn side of things, Minnesota ranks 26th in defensive efficiency to centers. Hello, 5K Jared Allen, 5,100 on DraftKings, really, really good price. 5,900 on FanDuel, really, really, really good price. Coming off a down game against the Warriors, but just look at his production. Over 30 fantasy point in the 3 games before that. Just an excellent spot for Jared Allen. I love him in the spot. It's going to be hard for me because I have interest. Obviously, Towns is going to be a lock for my lineups, and then like I really like DeAndre Jordan. I like Marc Gasol. I like Jared Allen. It's going to be hard for me to suss out which of those other centers I'm going to build around, but it's most likely going to be a 2-center night for me. I do really like Karis LeVert if he's able to go. 26% usage rate on the season. Takes 42% of his shots at the rim, where opponents are shooting 63% against the Wolves. He's one of the only guys that, outside of Allen and Spencer Dinwiddie tonight, who I feel comfortable with in cash games. The problem is at like 6,400. That's a really good price for Karis LeVert on DraftKings. I'm comfortable with him in cash there, but He's 7,200 on Fanduel. Like, there's a couple of other guys that I just feel much better about, like 7,500 Devin Booker, 7,200 Dennis Schroeder. Like, I feel better with those guys over on Fanduel than I do with Levert. But on DraftKings, it's a little bit different story. Spencer Dinwiddie in cash is fine, 5,200 on DraftKings, and 4,800. He's fine in tournaments too. If he has one of these games where he does get you over 30 fantasy points, you're pretty excited. And if he's hot from the floor, or D'Angelo Russell is just being an idiot, or just gets yanked because Kenny Atkinson doesn't like D'Angelo Russell, Dinwiddie could get a few extra minutes. He's just another really, really consistent cash game option. And then Russell, I mentioned, just going to take a lot of shots. And it's a good matchup, so I have a lot of interest in him. Monster upside even at 6K. Really good price in tournaments for him there, 6,200. Really good price there. I think on FanDuel, if you need a third punt, which you very well might, depending on how you go about this, Alan Crabb, very, very interesting here as a punt option. And even Joe Harris at 4,400, very interesting punt option here. Minnesota struggles to defend corner threes. Opponents shooting 44% on corner threes this season against them. Those two, over 10% of the field goal attempts come from the quarters. So interesting options there. More so FanDuel than DraftKings. Phoenix at OKC. OKC 8.5 point favorites. 217.5 over under in this one. Looking at the Phoenix side, Booker just way too underpriced. 32% use rate on the season. Going to put up 18, 20 shots most nights. Going to play 35, 36 minutes most nights. Yeah, Devin Booker is just way too cheap. 7,900 over here on DraftKings. And, 7,900, right? Yeah, 79, 75. Yeah. So you can see, I kind of have a lineup taken for him over here on FanDuel, but Devin Booker at 7,500, even though it's a little bit of a tougher matchup, I love Devin Booker in all formats. He's a guy that I have a lot of interest in, going to be most likely a core option for me here. Looking at the rest of this Phoenix team, Trevor Ariza over on DraftKings, 4,900. Very, very good price for a guy that's going to play well over 30 minutes most nights. OKC does struggle to defend in transition. 1.3 points per possession allowed in transition this season. Ariza, 25% of his possessions are in transition. So that makes Ariza very, very interesting at his current price tag. Even over here on FanDuel at 4,700, I really like Trevor Ariza. I love TJ Warren in all formats. Obviously, a little bit of a tougher matchup, but at 5,800 over on FanDuel and 5,500 on DraftKings, really, really cheap option here. Really good option for him there. That pretty much does it. DeAndre Ayton in tournaments is fine. Cannon is fine in cash. Obviously going to play a lot of minutes, but again, mostly it's just Warren, Ariza, and Booker for me. Warren coming off back-to-back 40-plus fantasy point games. So, again, tougher matchup, but still way too cheap. Looking at the OKC side, Dennis Schroeder is a guy that I have a lot of interest in. Has not really performed very well without Russ on the floor, but still over 30% usage rate, 1.08 fantasy points per minute. The assist numbers I expect to start to climb. They just haven't really been there for him over the last 3 games. I mean, we had the Cleveland game where he didn't have a single assist. These last couple of games, assist numbers not really where they should be. I expect him to get you, 6, 7, 8 assists most nights, especially with as much as he's handling the ball. But Phoenix, 29th in defensive efficiency to point guards. They really can't defend at the rim or in the mid-range. 69.6% shooting allowed at the rim, 46.4% shooting in the mid-range. 78% of Schroeder's shots come at the rim or in the mid-range. So Schroeder, excellent, excellent spot here tonight. Paul George, if you want to roll him out, is fine. Over 30% usage rate, 1.22 fantasy points per minute. It's kind of hard for me to get Paul George at 9,700 when Kawhi Leonard is a little bit cheaper and Kevin Durant is just a few hundred, just like 1,000 more, 1,300 more or whatever. But yeah, Paul George, perfectly fine. I do like Steven Adams, again, another center that I really, really like here. 6,700, just really, really cheap for a dude that's just been a beast on the boards. And Phoenix allowing 56 points in the paint and almost 14 second chance points per game. It's a great spot for Adams, so I like him in all formats. And then Jeremy Grant and cash is fine. A spot where I think he has a little bit more of an upside than people give him credit for. But at 4,800, guy's going to play a lot of minutes. Phoenix really struggles to defend corner threes. 15% of his shots this season are corner threes. So I like Jeremy Grant a significant amount. Going to be popular over on FanDuel, and I'm still fine with him in cash. I don't know that he has tournament upside at that $5,500 price tag. A little bit more tournament upside at that $4,800 price tag on DraftKings. And then Alex Abrinas or Terrence Ferguson, two punt options to consider. Moving on. San Antonio at Sacramento. Pau Gasol is out. Rudy Gay is probable. Jakob Poeltl is probable. Kosta Koufos is questionable for this game. San Antonio side, I really like LaMarcus Aldridge, 8,100 on DraftKings. A little bit more pricey over here on FanDuel at 8,400. Going to play a little bit closer to the basket with Pau Gasol being out. And against a Kings team that is really bad against centers, I really like LaMarcus Aldridge here. Kings are giving up 50 rebounds per game. They're giving up 15.8 second chance points and 54 points in the paint. And they lack rim protection, 65% shooting at the rim allowed. This season, LaMarcus Aldridge, 41% of his shots come at the rim. 56% of his shots overall are mid-range. This is a good spot for LaMarcus Aldridge. I expect him to put up a really, really big outing here. I like him on both sites. On DraftKings, where Derek White is 4,300. I do love him as a cash game option or a tournament option here. Obviously, with Rudy Gay coming back, that might take the ball out of White's hands just a couple times, but really, really good spot for Derek White, who's coming off a monster game. Should see about 30 minutes of him here, so I'm fine with him there. FanDuel at 6,300. Yeah, that's just a hard pass. Rudy Gay at 6,400. And 6,500, that's a fade for me there. Again, I like DeMar DeRozan at 9,300 and 9,200 or 9,100. Almost 30% usage rate. Just going to be putting up a lot of shots, but there's just better options here. So tournaments only for me there. Spurs do struggle against the pick and roll. They're allowing 0.94 points per possession to the ball handler in the pick and roll. Don't know how many times I have to hammer home that De'Aaron Fox is excellent in matchups against teams that can't defend the pick and roll, but over 40% of his possessions come in the pick and roll this season. I like De'Aaron Fox in all formats. Unfortunately, it's going to be very hard for me to get him in. So I don't know that it'd be locking him in, but he is underpriced in the spot. So in tournaments, he could be a core option for you there. Outside of that, yeah, Buddy and Bielitsa are fine in tournaments. They do get a little bit of a boost with the Spurs' transition defense being terrible. Over 25% of both of those guys' possessions come in transition this season, so those guys are fine in tournaments. Again, not just not terribly appealing in the spot. Willie Cauley-Stein just a little bit too cheap. Going to play a lot of minutes and in a decent spot, but there's just a lot of center options that I really, really like tonight. Moving on, Golden State Clippers, last game of the night. 236.5 over under. Golden State favored by 3. Draymond is questionable. Livingston is questionable. Avery Bradley is questionable. Stephen Curry is out. And Luke Richard Mbah a Moute is questionable for this game. Looking at the Clippers side of things first, Montrezl Harrell, core option for me here. I absolutely love him. 5,600 over on DraftKings, 6,500 on FanDuel. These are the kinds of matchups that you really want to target Montrezl Harrell in. He's been playing really, really well. Can get to the rim with ease against a Warriors team that is allowing opponents to shoot 69% at the rim. Montrezl Harrell, fantastic option here. Someone that I'm going to have a lot of interest in. Again, more of a core option for me, especially on DraftKings. The same goes with Danilo Gallinari. A little bit of a tough spot here, but comes in second highest usage on the team at 24, almost 24%. 5,600 on DraftKings, monster upside at this price. Another guy that I have a ton of interest in, and over on FanDuel, where he is 6,700, a little bit tougher to like him there, but I do like Gallinari a decent amount. I still like Tobias Harris, but just a little bit pricey. I think I'd still rather go with Danilo Gallinari, but he's going to be popular, especially on DraftKings, so if you wanted to pivot to Tobias, that's fine. The other two guys that I really have a lot of interest in, obviously, if Bradley's out, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, got to get a lot of minutes, coming off 3 really good games. I do love him in all formats. Really, really good spot for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, but only really interested in him if Bradley is out. And if that happens, if Bradley does miss this game, Patrick Beverley, I think, is the tournament pivot off of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Same price range. I think Gilgeous-Alexander is better offensively than Beverley is, but Beverly's still going to play a lot of minutes, can get you, some blocks and steals, things like that. I think Patrick Beverley is the tournament pivot off of Gilgeous-Alexander for like a significantly lower ownership. Like SGA probably going to be like 30+%. Patrick Beverley, you might get it like 5 or 6%. So good spot for Beverley here, who would be, again, a tournament option over SGA if Bradley is out. Flipping over to the Golden State side of things, Kevin Durant, 38.7% usage rate, 1.56 fantasy points per minute without Curry on the floor dating back to last season. That's good. Yeah. Kevin Durant, 11K. Kevin Durant, 11.3. Yep. Lock and load. He's my stud that I'm paying for tonight if I'm going to be paying up. Fantastic option, all formats. I love him. Gonna be a guy I really, really want to force in my lineups. I'm fine with Quinn Cook. Obviously, if Draymond Green comes back, that's going to be a hit to Quinn Cook. I'm probably fading Cook if Green is back, but if Green sits this one out once again, Quinn Cook's still a very, very good option here tonight. Just way too cheap at 5K and 5,400 over on Fanduel. So, and then Draymond, pretty much in play in all formats if he's able to suit up and is not limited. So yeah, that covers the slate. The third time's a charm, right? Yeah, good luck in all your contests tonight, and I will be back on Wednesday.